Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My Karen mother-in-law demands I eat her horrible cooking. I gave her a piece of my mind. After that, I created a tech support help desk for my family since they always need my help with technology. And after that, guess we'll have the coffee, the tale of a waiter who really messed up. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to force anyone to eat her cooking. But I'm making mystery meat surprise tonight. It's even got leftovers from last week in it. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My Karen mother-in-law demands I eat her horrible cooking. I gave her a piece of my mind. My husband, who's 23, and I'm 21. We come from different cultures. For example, I'm an immigrant and I moved to America when I was just 12 years old. There are many things my husband and his family do differently than mine, things that I'm not quite accustomed to. One of them is how they prepare and season their food. To me, it's super bland, and the food combinations they choose don't seem to go together. For example, my mother-in-law puts mayo in literally everything. I've even seen her making a tortilla pizza with mayo as her base, which she offered to me. Each time she offers me food, I make up some kind of an excuse to avoid eating it, and I try to be as polite as possible about it. Unfortunately, after I invited her to dinner, she felt compelled to do the same for me, even when I told her it was not necessary. The next day, after the dinner we had together, she started making plans with my husband. When my husband brought it up to me, I told him I really didn't want to go, to which he replied, "My mom's food isn't that bad. Can't you just please deal with it for one day?" In most cases, I would have just sucked it up to maintain a good relationship with my mother-in-law. But I'm pregnant in my first trimester and I'm feeling extra nauseous. I honestly don't think I'd be able to keep the food down in the condition I'm in. My husband grew up eating her food, which is maybe why he doesn't think it's that bad. I mean, even my family thinks so. When my mom invited her over for a family get-together, she brought some pasta, which sauce tasted like a whole package of ketchup was dumped in it. I ended up venting to my sisters and mom about the issue, and they all gave me the advice to just be honest. My mom even said that if I don't be honest now, it's something I'll have to deal with for the rest of my life. So I decided to call her and express to her that I'm not accustomed to eating these types of foods that she's used to making, and since I'm pregnant, it'll be really hard for me to swallow the food because of my nausea. I even offered to teach her some recipes from my homeland that she seemed to really enjoy. It didn't go well. She was really offended and told me that she'll never cook for my ungrateful self again, and told my husband. My husband is really disappointed in me because he felt like I should have just pretended to keep the peace, and he's upset that now my mother-in-law doesn't even want to invite me over again. I feel super bad now, and seriously, I want to know if I'm the jerk in this situation, or if I was being too mean or disrespectful. Update. I invited my mother-in-law out to a tea cafe and I spoke to her in person. I was able to explain myself better and chose not to back down on me not liking the types of foods that she cooks. This is my life, and I'm choosing not to live the rest of my future being pressured into eating foods that I don't like, and I'm also choosing to live my relationship based on honesty. I had an honest discussion with my mother-in-law and explained to her that I love her as a person and appreciate the time and effort she puts into making my husband and I food, but I honestly do not like the type of foods that she chooses to make. I explained to her that it doesn't make her any less of a person or a bad cook, it's just my personal preference. She took it extremely well this time and apologized for insulting me. She told me that she has never been the best cook and would love to take me up on my offer to teach her some meals from my homeland. I ended up suggesting that we take cooking classes together, and she loved the idea. I think the little bump in the road gave us a stronger bond, and I'm glad that we were able to patch things up. I personally don't think the advice that I was getting from the majority of this sub was good advice, and I would recommend to anyone in my situation to be honest and kind. I even made it known to my mother-in-law that I would appreciate the same kind of honesty coming from her, and if she ever disliked food I made or even a gift that I gave, to please let me know so I can make or get something that she'd enjoy. She even made jokes about previous gifts that I had got her. I mean, you called her up to tell her that you don't like her food? You wouldn't be offended if she did the same thing to you? If she was like, "The food you make is really unfamiliar and I honestly can't stomach it at all," wouldn't you be offended too? I would be. Soft, you're the jerk. No, you don't need to eat her food. You don't have to like her food. But calling her up to tell her how you literally cannot imagine trying to choke down her food is pretty rude. You're the jerk. Seriously, you're the jerk here. Pregnancy was the perfect excuse to say you just couldn't eat the food because your sense of smell and taste is being weird, rather than insulting her cooking. You're the jerk. You don't call someone up and tell them that you don't like the food that they cook for you. You just don't. If you're pregnant, you can say you're nauseous the night of the dinner and just eat very little. But it's just basic manners when you're being hosted to pretend the food is good. Yes, you might have to deal with this the rest of your life. Who cares? Occasional meals you don't like are not the end of the world. I created a tech support help desk for my family since they always need my help with technology. I'm female, 24 years old. I'm studying computer science and I'm currently doing an internship at a medium-sized company that hasn't laid off 30% of its employees yet. So, since I'm the one who knows about computers, my family sees me as their personal tech support, and my family is big. I live with my mom, my little brother, 2 of my aunts, and their kids. The kids are lazy when it comes to tech because they know that I'll do it for them. But my mom and aunts are beyond tech illiterate. They're tech morons. I'm constantly interrupted during my studies or my work because my cousins forgot their Disney Plus profile pin, or my mom needs to reset her email password again. I actually set up a cloud password manager for them that they do not use because they always forget that it's an option. So a few weeks ago, one of my little cousins wanted me to help him reset a password after he got locked out of Google, and he aggressively knocked on my door, demanding that I help him. I asked him, "Do I look like tech support to you?" And he said yes, with a straight face. So I got a domain and set up a help desk. Then I told my family that if they wanted any help from me, they should go to the website and submit a ticket for my help. My aunt said that I was being ridiculous, but I was dead serious. In the following days, I would give them the cold shoulder if they tried to come to me with tech problems, and just tell them to submit a ticket and I would send them the solution by mail. Forgot your mail password? Too bad, use someone else's mail. Fortnite is lagging? Get a ticket and wait till I'm home. That helped me a lot. But then yesterday I came back from the university and the whole house was sitting in the living room telling me to sit down. They were doing an intervention on me. They said I was rude, cold, condescending, and unhelpful. My mom said she's tolerated my manly ways, no idea where that comes from, because I'm helpful with technology, but now they won't stand up to my disrespect and I'm treating them like kids. I said no, I'm treating them like customers. The discussion got heated and turned into a screaming match. I said I would move in with my ex-stepfather because he doesn't ask me to do stuff. I'm still with my family, but I feel like everyone hates me now. But my ex-father says I'm right to be annoyed by them. Am I the jerk? Okay, this is brilliant. If it was once or twice in a while, I'd say you're a jerk. This consistently with no respect for your time? Not only not the jerk, but genius. Not the jerk. No good deed goes unpunished. I'm sympathetic with folks who are technologically illiterate if they're willing to listen and at least try. Less so with those who are lazy, entitled jerks. You're facing a mixture of both, compounded by the numbers. Your solution was ingenious, good show. I'm hoping you don't actually have to move and that the threat gets them to shape up. Guess we'll have the coffee. The tale of a waiter who really messed up. My sister just reminded me about this story. It takes place in 2017. She and I were out for brunch, and we had a lovely time at an upscale rooftop restaurant in the heart of our city. You know, the kind with a full setting, cloth napkins, and white tablecloth. The kind where a pancake entree has the word melange and mimosas are $16. We had a great time, even though the service was a little rushed. We get it. Saturday brunch means a lot of tables with a speedy turnover. My sister had been a waitress all through college. We even joked about her applying for the weekend shifts since she'd make great tips. When it came time to settle the check, we noticed we had been charged for 2 coffees, which we didn't order nor receive. While handing the bill back, I asked that they be taken off. Waiter: "Well, you got coffee." Me: "I'm sorry, we actually didn't. See?" I show him the pristine empty coffee cups. Waiter: "No, there's 2 coffee cups on the table." Me: "There are coffee cups on every table." At this point, he kind of huffs and rolls his eyes and says he doesn't have the authority to remove anything from the bill. Before I can ask for someone who can, he smirks and says the manager on duty just went on break and we'd have to wait 30 minutes for her, but he'd be asking us to wait at the host stand since they need the table. My sister and I look at each other and we both get the same idea. Sister: "Well, okay, guess if we're being charged for coffee, I'd like a refill. Me. Oh, for me too. And can you bring cream and sugar? It was at this moment he knew he messed up. We spent another 20 minutes sipping coffee and keeping him from turning the table. We asked for refills once, and I asked if they had any raw sugar packets. By the end of it, he was pointedly ignoring us. We kinda giggled about it, and I made a very dramatic show of flourishing my card, putting it in the booklet, and setting it upright. My sister even tried to flag him down, but he refused to look in our direction. We finished and hung around until he came back with his manager. He was smirking again. I have to say, his facial expression stayed with me. Waiter, sickly sweet.
Okay, you two. We have a seating time limit to allow our other guests the opportunity to eat with us. Will that be all today?
Me. Well, we've been waiting for you to take our check. I was trying to get your attention earlier, but you must have been busy. I offer him my card and the booklet, and I've never seen a human turn red so quickly. He mutters that he'll be right back and marches off to run it. While we were waiting, the manager asked us about our experience. We said we both had a great time and we'd be back, and relayed what happened. At least we ended up enjoying the coffee. We paid, left a decent tip, and skedaddled. But it felt good knowing he probably cost himself a ticket's worth of tips over $9 in coffee. I can't believe you left a tip after that treatment. Waitstaff deserve to make a living, but that waiter all but begged for you to stiff him. Why do people still tip when servers pull this crap? Most people are more passive than you might imagine. So you tipped the guy and informed management that you enjoyed your service? Yeah, he's gonna learn from this. OP. No, I told the manager about what happened to us and I left an 18% tip. I would have left a 0 tip. In this case, it was well earned. Demand I do it your way? Okay, enjoy your brand new rusty wheel slicer. It's been years, but I'm still worried that this person is going to hunt me down in my sleep, hence the throwaway. I used to work at a deli shop just to make ends meet while I went to uni. The owner of that place was a real piece of work. If you got on her bad side, she would be both openly and passively aggressive, with the general vibe that you were an incompetent idiot no matter what you did. I heard that woman scream at a 15-year-old on her second day because she had mixed up coffee and teacups, which differed in size by only 1 ounce, just to give you an idea of her personality. After this whole experience, my dad told me that, as a general hint, it may be good to be suspicious if a workplace hires exclusively teens with no experience, because they're very unlikely to recognize crappy workplace treatment. There were 2 people in this place who didn't take her crap. Me, a mid-20s in recovery who's seen way worse, and a 45-year-old Iranian man who told her that she could buzz off when she went off on him for not being willing to come in early to his 11-hour shift to prep ingredients. Off the clock, of course. I liked that dude. With the stage set, onto the malicious compliance. When I started, this place desperately needed a new wheel meat slicer. The one they had made a constant screeching noise and drove everyone crazy. About a month and a half into my employment, they got one. Industrial grade, cost $5,000. Both looked and worked accordingly. Amazing piece of kit. As we were all celebrating and unpacking it, I flipped through the instructions booklet to look up how it works, and specifically how to clean it, as there were quite a few parts. The manual says to clean everything detachable thoroughly, but that the wheel itself should be cleaned by letting it run on very low speed with safety precautions, and using a cloth and alcohol-based cleaning agent on the exposed part. There were some pictures and detailed instructions on how to do this, and it explicitly stated not to take the whole wheel off and deep clean it, as this would remove the wheel lubricant and anti-corrosive agent and risk damage to the machine, and to especially not let water or any cleaning agents get into the machine without making sure to thoroughly replace any lubricant. I was working the evening shift, so 99% of the time it was up to me to clean it. The instructions is how I clean the machine because I trust the designer to know how to clean it. Or I do for about 2 days until my boss sees me, asks what I'm doing and why I'm not taking the wheel off to clean it. She goes off on me about food safety and hygiene standards, telling me how disgusting I am for doing it this way. I stand my ground and inform her that I do it this way because of the instructions, that I'm following the manual, and I explain the reasoning behind it. If we scrub it down, especially the inner part, the grease will go away a lot faster and we'll risk damage to the machine. She basically tells me to shove it and to do it her way. Now, I'm not going to ruin a $5,000 machine because one woman doesn't understand how it works, But the very next day, my manager sees me clean the machine and gives me an extremely condescending talk down on how this isn't how we approach hygiene, and how boss told me you don't seem to understand food safety. My explanation falls on deaf ears again, and I'm also informed not only am I expected to take the wheel off and scrub it at the end of the day, but after every single use. Boss also wants me to make sure I spray off the inside section to ensure there's no bacteria in there, with some hints that there'd apparently been a whole colony of life growing in there due to my 2-day negligence. She wants me to spray soap and water mixture into the cogs of the machine they just bought. The blade is stainless steel, but the cogs aren't. Fine. If that's what you want me to do, that's what I'll do. Every day, 5 times a day, I take that machine apart and scrub it down. Every day I see that lubrication disappear more and more, and after a week, it's all gone, eventually becoming replaced by growing patches of rust. I feel bad for the machine, but I do as I've been told. I only work 6 days a week, so every day I come in after my break thinking that surely yesterday my manager would have reacted. Nope. She takes it apart just like I do, cleans it like I do, and doesn't seem to think twice about the fact that this brand new machine is rusting apart in front of our eyes. In fact, she goes the extra mile and also scrubs the cog itself, which is probably why a year or so worth of lubricant disappeared in 1 week. The thing about rusty machinery is that it usually works up until a certain point, but once it reaches that point, there's no going back. One day, I turn it on, and it makes a screeching noise I can only imagine came from the soul of this bit of kit, wondering why God has forsaken it, and it's like the clocks all stop. My coworker in the pastry section comes over to ask what that noise is. My boss and manager come into the room with the same question, and I just shrug and slice my salami. Boss tells her co-owner to go get some lubrication for the gears, and after a minute, he puts some spray-on lube in front of me and tells me to lube the gears up. I ask him where the lithium lubricant paste is, since according to the instructions, that's what you need, and he seems flabbergasted that putting something made for hinges and ball bearings isn't appropriate for a meat slicer. 2 days and some tinnitus later, he's acquired some grease and then proceeds to be stumped when I let him know that I'm not going to stop doing my regular job to spend 30 minutes greasing up this machine unless someone else takes over my section or they pay me overtime. My boss is meanwhile demanding to know why I haven't told them we needed to stock up on lithium grease, which I don't even bother to respond to. I make sandwiches. I'm not your mechanic. I left that job a few weeks later, and when I did, the machine was still crying the song of its ancestors every time we turned it on. And we were still scrubbing it down from the inside out daily, of course. I have since then gotten a sneaking suspicion I know what happened to its predecessor, and me and my dad, who is actually a mechanic, still laugh about it sometimes. My boss did ask, rhetorically, at one point, how the heck the machine got to that stage so fast. I answered that it's probably because we've been scrubbing the lubrication and corrosion protection off several times a day, and I take great pleasure in the memory that she completely ignored me. It's the only time while I was there that she didn't snap back at me, and I like to think she remembered back to when I explicitly told her that if we clean this thing in that way, this is exactly what would happen. Overall, I don't think a $5,000 machine would make or break anything, but yowza, did that feel good. Apparently, my job wants us to be comedians. My restaurant got new menus printed, and apparently they decided to add a little "buy a joke for 50 cents" thing at the bottom of the page, without bothering to tell any of us about it or say what jokes, etc. So the first time anyone asked me about it, I had no idea what they were talking about. I'm a bartender, but recently they've been cutting so much staff all the time that they had just me up front that day. Anyway, I seat a table of German tourists, and then when I come back from the bar to take their order, a guy asks if he can buy a joke and has some quarters laid out on the table. I was like, huh? Then he pushes the quarters at me and says again that he wants to buy a joke. Me. Still have no idea what he's talking about. Now gaslighting myself that I must not be hearing it right due to his accent or something, because what I think he said doesn't make any sense. It was probably clear to them at this point that I was confused as heck, so one of them points to the menu where I see it printed at the bottom. I apologize and explain to them we just got new menus printed and we weren't told about the joke bit edition. We all kind of awkwardly laugh off the situation and they go on to order. Except the one guy who keeps asking about a joke. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have one ready to go. He kept pushing it, so I said I'd try to think of one. Any joke I'd ever known had, of course, flown out of my brain the moment they asked. and when I tried to remember any, they were all too long or not appropriate for work. I check on the other tables, the bar, etc., doing all the jobs in front of house. Yes, I know it's messed up, but we don't have time to get into all of that. I pop into the back where the shift lead is unpacking the week's order of food and supplies because apparently upper management figured he could unpack and stock the entire shipment himself and be a server and manager at the same time. I know. I ask him what's up with the joke thing, and they never mentioned it to him either. He said I should tell them my job, which made me laugh, but I doubt my table of tourists would have gotten that or found it funny. Anyway, I go back out, and most people seem understanding or chill, seeing just me running around doing everything. But the joke guy persists. Almost any time I'm near their table, running food or bringing a check, whatever, he mentions it. I try to stay behind the bar as much as I can because I'm starting to get annoyed. Sir, I ain't got time for jokes right now. I'm trying to make this place run. The whole thing was upsetting me. The way he kept pushing the coins at me, like dance monkey dance. That they want me to be a clown for 50 cents while I'm trying to do my actual job and others for 50 cents. Are you kidding me? Now I gotta learn jokes for this? The fact that they didn't tell us at all about it or give us some kind of approved joke list, whatever. I gotta make up my own material? I'm not a stand-up comedian. I know it's probably not that big of a deal, and they were probably just trying to be quirky or whatever the deal, but it annoyed me. It felt low-key degrading, and just one more thing in a long list of annoyed or disrespectful things that upper management has put upon us for no good reason and zero communication. It's stupid anyway. Since then, I've probably only gotten 2 other people that ever mentioned it, one being a regular that noticed it and thought it was dumb, and some other dude that didn't give a hoot when I didn't have one and laughed when I told him I don't know what's up with it either. They just put it on the menu. I have, however, been trying to pick up jokes here and there that I could possibly use because my anxiety-riddled self doesn't want to feel unprepared. They never seem to stick, but I think I finally found one. The perfect joke. For the bar anyway. It's short, concise, easy to remember, and bonus, it should have the desired effect of making sure they never want to ask you for one again. Alright, here it is. What does dark humor and kids with... Oh, dang. They never get old. Boom! Said with all the enthusiasm of Wednesday Addams should do the trick. Or hey, if they think it's funny, then they're either a super chill person with a dark sense of humor and we could get along, or they like it a little too much, they're a psycho and should be avoided. Either way, it's a win. Am I the jerk for making an insurance claim against someone just trying to help me? I take my dogs for a run every afternoon to some fields about 10-minute drive from my home. I load them up in the canopy in the back of my truck and pop one window of canopy into the open position so my dogs can look at things and get some fresh air. The gas struts on the window have failed, meaning the window no longer supports itself while open and drops down. So I wrap a strap around the inner strut to act as a support so the window doesn't drop down and close while going over bumps. I did the same thing that afternoon, but after getting home and dropping the dogs off, I needed to pop into the shops. Problem was that I had left the canopy window open while driving to the shops. On the way there, some bloke got out of his car at a set of traffic lights and runs over to my truck and attempts to close the canopy window down for me. But because it was braced so well, he had to put extra force into trying to close it. I watched this all unfold from the mirror. It happened extremely fast, so I had no opportunity to tell him to stop. He put so much force into trying to close it for me that he completely shattered the window. The light went green, so we pulled over on the side of the intersection. I got his details from him. He's 20 years old, driving an old 4-wheel drive. Really nice kid. But am I the jerk for making an insurance claim to have the canopy replaced? It was an older canopy, so they could not make repairs. I do feel bad that he was only trying to help out, but in the same breath, I was left with a problem I never created. Should I have just copped it on the chin? I left the window open mistakenly. He was just trying to be a good Samaritan and was extremely apologetic about it. He actually went back and cleaned glass off the road with a broom. He also cut his feet in it. Edit. Some people saying I'm taking advantage of the situation, which is not true. I asked insurance to repair the old canopy. The manufacturer came back and said it can't be replaced because the model was no longer supported and had been superseded. So the whole canopy must be replaced under the insurance claim. It was already broken, and you are taking advantage of the situation to get it fixed. That young man's insurance costs are going to go up for the next 7 years thanks to you. You're the jerk. Or the kid could have just not touched someone else's stuff. OP has it rigged up and working fine until the kid shattered the window. The kid should have told OP and not rushed over to mess with their stuff. Not the jerk. He shouldn't have touched your vehicle. There was no expectation for him to do so, and his actions caused the damage. Unfortunately for him, you shouldn't be stuck with the bill. Not the jerk. When will men learn that we don't need their help? I'd honestly press charges if I were you. It's guys like this that seriously creep me out. You have no right whatsoever to touch anything that belongs to me. Just trying to help? How about you help me by keeping your hands to yourself? This guy is definitely the kind to pull out chairs and hold doors open and probably considers himself a gentleman. Guys like that give me the creeps and make me so glad I was raised by my mom and didn't have to deal with my loser dad while I was growing up. I'm raising 2 sons on my own now, and I'm teaching them that women don't need their help for anything and never will. My sons will know that they are not some special little superheroes, and I'm also teaching them to mind their own business unless spoken to by a woman. My sons will not grow up to be jerks like the ones I read about on here. Karen demands I let her daughter keep my crafting supplies. I'm 31, female. My best friend, Riley, who's also 31, female, recently just got a part-time job after several years of staying home with her daughter, Ella, who's 6. She and her husband, Joe, who's 34, haven't been able to get the childcare situation totally sorted out and needed a babysitter last Saturday, so I agreed to watch Ella for the day while Riley was at work. I've been sort of the cool aunt ever since Ella was born. I typically will bring small gifts or activities whenever I know I'll be seeing her, which isn't all that often. Ella is smart and engaged, and I like to give her things that will interest her and keep her occupied. One important piece of information here is that I'm a very crafty person. I have a small online store and also work with local businesses for selling and distributing small batches of my product, hand-painted wooden figurines. I thought it might be fun to introduce Ella into my hobby and business, so I ended up bringing 10 unpainted figurines to choose from, a few tubes of acrylic paint, and some paintbrushes. We immediately got to work, and Ella was so into it. She had an absolute blast painting her turtle figurine. But when it came time for me to leave, I started packing up all of my supplies, and Ella became visibly upset. Riley insisted that I leave the supplies behind so that Ella could keep and play with them. I disagreed and basically said that I have no obligation to give away any of my belongings. I personally feel like I was more than generous by babysitting Ella on my day off. I do have a regular 9-to-5 job as well, and providing a fun activity for her. Riley pointed out that I have a pretty large stock of items at home, which is true, but still, letting Ella keep the supplies and figurines would have been a loss in profit for my business. Ella cried when I didn't let her keep any of the stuff, and Riley argued that I should have never brought toys over if I wasn't willing to let Ella keep them. Now Riley hasn't been responding to any of my messages or calls, and I can only assume she's still angry over this whole thing. I thought I was doing something nice by babysitting and providing a fun activity. Am I the jerk for not letting Ella keep my crafting supplies? Edit. Just clarifying that I did let Ella keep the one completed turtle figurine that she painted herself. Everything else I took back home with me. Not the jerk. Does Riley start dismantling the swings when she leaves the playground? Not the jerk. And Ella is old enough to understand that. Karen steals my family's name for her baby and refuses to change it. This is a throwaway because my brother-in-law, 24 male, knows my main account, and sorry for the errors I'm posting from my phone. So my stepsister, 23 female, is having a new baby soon, and my whole family is excited for her, and this will be the first grandbaby for my mother and stepfather. I, 25 male, am half white and half Polynesian. They are full white for reference. So the story. My family got together and is having a good time. We were all chatting in the living room, and then the topic of the first grandbaby comes up between my mom and my stepsister. They're talking about what she will do with work and normal expecting talk when they start talking about names, and my mom starts suggesting names like Sam and Riley. Then my sis says a Polynesian name. Think Leilani or along those lines. I was a little offended because the name has a lot of importance in my family. It has a very important meaning. I would go into more detail, but the name is so specific they would know who's posting this. She said she heard the name when talking to me. Duh, it's a family name, and it has been on her mind ever since, and she's just fallen in love with it. Polynesian names are very significant to the families and people with those names. In most Polynesian cultures, names tell a story and have a significance to the family. Only certain families can have these names because of respect and genealogy and honor, like a title. I get that it's not normal here in the US, but I was offended that she thinks she can just take a name from my family like that without even thinking about my customs. I feel like it was offensive to my people because she didn't even know where my family is from. I would always tell her the island my family is from, and she would be like, okay, whatevs. She doesn't know anything about the culture or customs. So I pulled her aside and in privacy told her I didn't feel comfortable with the name she had chosen. I told her the importance of names in my culture and how they have meaning, and I even offered to sit down with her and find a story or meaning she liked and translate it into a name of my people so she can still have a pretty name, but it would also not be taking from the culture. Then she got really mad at me and said that it doesn't matter, the culture, it's just a name, and why can't I just let her be happy? I told her I would never call her kid by that name because it would be offensive to my family and I. Then she got our family involved. They all started calling me names. So I tried to explain to them the meaning of names in my culture. They told me I was in America, not the island my family is from, so it doesn't matter. So I called them some names, and they could at least have some knowledge or some appreciation for my culture before they start taking from it. I want to know, am I the jerk for making such a big deal out of a name? Edit 1. I keep seeing I don't own the name. This is why I say culture, because back on the island I'm from, my family does actually own the name. You can't name someone that name unless you're in our family. That's why I say I know it's different in the US, but it's not like that in our culture. Edit 2. My grandpa said we are proud to share our culture. We'll teach you our dances and share our food, but we draw the line when you start taking our sacred family names. These names are passed down in our family like Americans would pass down war medals or a very important pocket watch. It's how we connect to family and our ancestors. I would be fine with any other name in my culture as long as it wasn't one of these. These names bring great pride to our families. We track them through what is basically a mural that are decades, if not hundreds of years old. I would explain it like these names were bestowed or given to us by God, for lack of a better analogy. That's what our family names mean to us. My stepsister has no relation to my Polynesian side and has always made fun of my name. When I pulled her aside, I tried to explain to her that the same way she has treated me is how other kids will treat her daughter. I have also been with my stepsister since I was 6. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.